What's the big deal? Josh Allen beat Patrick Mahomes in the regular season. This is how it goes, right? I mean, what are we losing any sleep over? It's fine. It's going to be okay. 6:05. It is great to have you here on KCMO Talk Radio. Yeah, Josh Allen is now 5-1 against Patrick Mahomes in the regular season after the Bills beat the Chiefs last night in Buffalo. He can't beat him in the playoffs. And I don't know about you, Mark, but as I was sitting there yesterday watching the Bills close out that win, I said, okay, all right, now we know how it's going to go in January. It's going to be just fine, my man. We're going to be okay.
Yeah, I don't think it was a huge loss before the season. I thought that would be a loss. So.
You did. You called it on Friday, too. You said before the year, I said, I think it's going to be a loss. Now, you converted it into a win.
I did.
But, you know, that's okay. I was with you there, my man. I was. Bills played a great game, though. Hand it to them, okay? They had Mahomes under a lot of pressure. And, of course, we're not sitting here doing a sports show, but this is what everyone's talking about this morning in Kansas City. So I will just say this. If you want a little stat for the water cooler today, all right? You're getting up, you're getting at it, going to work, hitting the gym first. You remember this stat. You want to impress the people at the office today? Here you go. The Bills pressured Mahomes on 53% of his dropbacks. And Mahomes completed just 3 of 16 passes, 61 yards, and interception when he was under pressure. In the regular and postseason, the Bills are 6-1 against the Chiefs when they have 6 or more QB hits on Mahomes. They are 0-4 against Mahomes when recording less than 6 hits. So if they get to Mahomes, what happens? They beat him. If they don't, they don't beat him. It's really that simple. Now, you can say that about a lot of football games. I understand it. But you could tell, watching yesterday, the Bills' pass rush was on. And the Bills' pass rush was on. They were getting to Mahomes, and they were throwing him for a loop all day. And it led to the Bills, obviously, picking up that win at home. And the Chiefs' offensive line was not good at all yesterday, Mark.
Yeah, it was the first time in Mahomes' career he was under 50% completion percentage on the day.
Wow.
And they were still a Hail Mary away from tying the game.
Well, that's the thing. That's where you got to look at it and say, hey, this team literally had a Hail Mary attempt to try to tie the game and send it to overtime, potentially. I mean, that's what you were looking at yesterday. On the road with the Bills playing what is their Super Bowl in November. All right, so let's all take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. We're going to make it. And I am confident that the Chiefs are going to use this bye week, be effective. Andy Reid's always great off the bye. Then you go to Denver in a couple of Sunday nights and you get a big win. There you go. Then it's back home for Indianapolis, and then you go to the Cowboys on Thanksgiving.
If they beat Denver, I could see them going on a run at the end of the season where they might not even lose again.
That's possible.
That's what I'm looking at when I look at their schedule.
I mean, they're 5-4 right now. They're out of the playoff picture right now, so I'm not going to get ahead of myself here, but Denver's going to be tough in a couple of Sundays. The bye could not come at a better time. In the meantime, during the game yesterday, there was a police officer-involved shooting in Kansas City. This was at about 3:32 in the afternoon in KCMO, like literally 7 minutes into the game. Josh Allen and the Bills are on that opening 7-minute drive that seemed like it was never going to end, where they score a touchdown to open up the game. And this is what happened in KCMO, the report from KCTV5.
Independence Avenue from Benton Boulevard to Monroe Avenue was taped off as authorities investigated an officer-involved shooting that happened just after 3:30 Sunday afternoon. Corporal Justin Howard with MHSP says KCPD officers were responding to a disturbance call in the area on reports of a man shooting a gun in the air.
When officers arrived, one officer deployed his taser, and the other officer fired his duty weapon, striking the subject.
The man was taken to the hospital in critical condition. Corporal Howard couldn't say if the weapon was seen by, pointed at officers, or if officers saw the weapon being shot when they arrived at the scene.
But that information will come out throughout the investigation.
He did say the officers were wearing their body-worn cameras.
And thank goodness for that. So that report from KCTV5 last night. You have an officer-involved shooting, 3:30 in the afternoon, 3500 block of Independence Avenue. So there are still more questions than there are answers at this point. We do know no officers were injured when they arrived on the scene. One deployed a taser, the other fired shots. Suspect transported to the hospital. Now, this is being investigated by Missouri Highway Patrol because that's who investigates anything that involves an officer-involved shooting. That being said, could you imagine a world right now in Kansas City where there are not body cameras? I don't know who the suspect is. I don't know who the gun shooter was. I don't know really anybody involved. None of us do at this point. But in a world where there are not body cameras for KCPD, which they did not have up until, late 2020, early 2021, after the Summer of Love. To think about Kansas City, Missouri right now, not having body cameras is just unfathomable to me, given the climate that we find ourselves in when it comes to police officers. So thankfully, whatever the facts are, whatever the truth is in this story, should come out pretty quickly because of the body cameras. And that's why last week when it came up in a conversation with the mayor of Kansas City, and he was talking about how, hey, KCPD needs they have requested a 20% increase in their budget. And even I'm sitting here as a guy in Kansas City who always has, within reason, is always going to have the backs of the men and women in blue. I'm like, 20%? For what? With all due respect, 20% increase for what? And somebody suggested to me on social media, they said, well, Pete, there's a lot of equipment upgrades that need to happen, and we want to make sure that we have the body cameras. Yeah, we absolutely do. I agree with that. But to me, body cameras for cops, that's like having a pension for cops. It's a non-negotiable at this point. There's no way that somebody would want to work in a major American city and not have a body camera. You're asking for trouble in this climate. And yesterday is case in point in that here in Kansas City. I don't know where the story leads. I don't know the suspect, obviously, any of the makeups of the individuals involved. I just know this much. The truth will come out. It will not be a he said, he said. It doesn't mean that grifting huckster attorneys won't potentially get involved. I'm not saying that's not going to happen here. I'm just simply making it very clear that because of the body cameras, we won't have to sit here and speculate. Because the worst of the worst has happened here in Kansas City on cases involving speculation and race. Whether it's Eric DeValcanair, whether it is what happened with Andrew Lester up in the Northland, when you don't have the cameras to show you exactly what happened, well, people are going to jump to their own conclusions. Especially if you can divide people along racial lines and you can make some money doing it. Coming up on KCMO, the shutdown continues on. Rich Lowry is going to be here from the National Review coming up at the bottom of the hour. That's at 6:35, 20 minutes away. We'll talk to Rich about where the shutdown goes from here on KCMO Talk Radio. And the president has doubled down on one of his ideas from late last week. But is that the right play? We'll get to it next on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. Trump's doubling down last night. He shares on social media, which followed up his interview on 60 Minutes, terminate the filibuster, not just for the shutdown, he says, but for everything else. We will get all of our common sense policies approved. Voter ID, anyone? And make America great again. This is, by the way, in all caps, so I don't want to scream at you at 6:20 on a Monday morning. But just visualize this, all caps, Trump post, social media last night at about 9 p.m. Remember, I don't want to blow out my voice either this early. I got 3.5 hours to go here. Remember, the Democrats will do it immediately as soon as they get the chance. Our doing it will not give them the chance. Republicans, be tough and smart. The Dems are crazed lunatics. They will not open up our country no matter how many people are irreparably harmed. That is from the President of the United States. Now, I will say it simply, as I said on Friday, I disagree. I understand why he's frustrated. He has every right to be frustrated. The Democrats have held the country hostage now for 34 days because they didn't like elements of the big, beautiful bill. That's basically what this is about. That, of course, stripped out some of the Obamacare subsidies, and they're mad about that. They lost an election fair and square. The Republicans passed policy they didn't like, and now they're holding the government and millions of Americans hostage. That's what's going on here. At its very simplest form, those are the facts. That's not my opinion. Those are facts. That's how we got here. It would be like the Republicans back in 2021 after Joe Biden passed the Inflation Reduction Act, basically closing the government, not voting for any continuing resolution on spending because they didn't like the Inflation Reduction Act, and they basically were just going to hold Congress hostage until they got what they wanted. That would have been the reverse of what's going on right now. And at the time, Democrats would have rightfully so been like, well, hold on a second here. What are you doing? We passed legislation fair and square. We won elections, and you guys don't like what you're doing or what we're doing, so now you're going to shut down the government? That's what's happening right now. So I get why the president's ticked off. They've wasted a month of doing absolutely nothing instead of moving the ball forward so that they can just sit there and kick the tires around the idea of Trump being the worst president ever and potentially use it to help them in their elections that are going on this week. And that seems to be part of what is happening here. Ted Cruz, U.S. Senator from Texas, was on Fox Business Network yesterday with Maria Bartiromo. And he threw out the idea that Democrats may be willing to reopen the government coming up on Wednesday after these elections coming up on Tuesday in places like New York, well, New York City, Virginia, New Jersey governor's race. I mean, I don't think they're doing it to goose the elections here in Johnson County in like the Overland Park City Council race. I don't think that's what's happening on behalf of the Overland Park mayor or something like that. Although I was watching Sling TV because my YouTube TV didn't have Disney over the weekend, and every other ad was a Kurt Skoog ad for Overland Park mayor. You saw that too, Mark? You saw that?
I get it on Hulu.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Kurt Skoog bought up all of Sling and Hulu.
He loves the streaming.
Kurt Skoog loves himself some Sling and Hulu, baby. But I couldn't get away from Kurt Skoog over the weekend. So I don't think that this is about the Democrats trying to juice any local races in Johnson County, more of the big national races. But still, here's what Ted Cruz said yesterday on Fox Business.
Senator, before you go, will the government open this upcoming week? This is getting seriously impacting the U.S. economy. What's your take?
I think it's likely to open Wednesday or Thursday of this week. The Democrats will wait until after Election Day because they think a shutdown is good for energizing the crazies in their party. But I think it'll be either late this week or early next week.
All right. I hope Ted Cruz is right. I really do. Because the biggest concern I have right now are the airports. The airports were on the brink of potential disaster before any of this. Now you've got air traffic controllers not getting paid. You've got shortages beyond the shortages that already existed. We're going into a very busy travel time of year. If we get to Thanksgiving, and I know that that's, 3+ weeks away now, but it's not that far off. And you've got the airports an absolute utter mess. You have air traffic controllers still not getting paid. I don't know how this ends. At that point, then I would probably come around on Trump and just say, you know what? Blow up the filibuster. If we get through tomorrow and there is no end in sight, I understand what he's going for here. I really do. I'm just not there yet. On the text line, Pete, love the show, but today I disagree. I fully agree with President Trump and said this before he did it. It's time we stop allowing this type of behavior just because we don't want the same and the retaliation. Democrats have no limits, will do whatever they want, whenever they are in power, and nobody will hold them accountable. I'm not far off from what you're saying there on the text line. I'm really not. And I'm not trying to ride the fence. I'm saying I'm not there yet, but I'm not far off from being there. I keep wanting to think that, hey, maybe the No Kings protest, maybe that's the thing. that'll end the shutdown. Nope, not going to do it. Maybe realizing that millions of people aren't going to get SNAP benefits will do it. No, that's not going to do it either. Okay, I don't know. Maybe the election being over on Tuesday will do it. No, not going to happen. It will get to a point where there will be a lot of pain and people are finally going to say enough's enough. But what I would prefer here is that they don't give in on the filibuster. I think the Democrats want them to do that in part and figure out how to get critical government employees paid. Because someone's taking the tax money in. It's going to the Treasury. Someone's got, I got paid on, Thursday, Friday of last week. Taxes were taken out of my paycheck. The money is somewhere. So if you're paying critical government employees, you're getting air traffic controllers paid. You're getting the men and women of the military paid. I'm okay piecemealing this together for a little bit longer. But if we are rolling till Thanksgiving and we're still in the same position we're in right now, then you know what? I won't be far off from where this texter is. I just admit I'm not there yet. On the text line, Pete, you're more concerned about holiday travel plans than people needing SNAP benefits for food? Well, hold on. I didn't say that, okay? Do not put words in my mouth. I'm not going anywhere for the holidays. All right, so it's not about me. But what I'm saying is that will cause far more chaos. I firmly believe that. It will be far more relatable to millions and millions of people. I'm not saying the 40 million people on food stamps aren't going to feel it as well. But thank goodness there are great local options here. We have harvesters in Kansas City and a lot of great other groups around Kansas City and around the country who, God willing, are going to help people get the food that they need. And we're going to have more information on that this week right here on KCMO Talk Radio. But you know and I know that with holiday travel coming up, that is something that will upend things for tens of millions of people, if not more than that. That was my only point on that front. We were all wrong in our predictions on Friday for this Chiefs-Bills game, so I figured in honor of those inaccurate predictions, let's go back to 1 year ago today when the worst political prediction of the modern era came down. And it came courtesy of a pollster who got a lot of love in the wake of this poll because a lot of people wanted this to be true. It turned out to be completely and utterly wrong. Way worse than our predictions on Friday where we said the Chiefs would beat the Bills. I mean, this is not even close to that level of being wrong. This is way more wrong. Here it was 1 year ago today. Rachel Maddow, MSNBC, drops this nugget about this poll out of Iowa to our north, and here's what that sounded like.
You have seen Ann Seltzer basically as a living bullseye. And that's why lots of people had strong reactions when the Des Moines Register Ann Seltzer Iowa poll was posted last night. This is that poll, and it is a shock result. It shows Kamala Harris ahead of Donald Trump by 3 points in Iowa. And the reason this is consequential to our psyche is that if this is accurate, and if anybody is accurate, it's likely to be Ann Seltzer in the Iowa poll. If this is accurate, this implies that Harris might be winning Iowa. 3 points, granted, is within the margin of error here, but it's 3 points. Iowa is a state where neither campaign has spent any time or resources since the primaries. They don't have a ground game there. They don't have ads up there. Trump won Iowa by 8 points last time and 9 points the time before that. Nobody thinks of it as a swing state. A Democratic presidential candidate hasn't won Iowa since Barack Obama in 2012.
Yeah. I didn't hear anything. She was so giddy with the excitement. Her voice went so high up there with the dog whistles, I didn't hear.
She was trying to will it to be true.
Wasn't she?
That's what it was. That was 1 year ago today. Rachel Maddow is giddy with excitement. I mean, man, she was excited about dropping that poll on her viewers. Kamala says this pollster, Ann Seltzer, is up 3 points in Iowa. Oh, my, she hasn't spent a dime there. We haven't won the state since Obama. Oh, my goodness, the landslide is coming. Oh, the landslide came, all right. It just came in the direction that you didn't want it to come in. Trump won Iowa by 13 points. The poll was off by 16 points. 16 points! We could have sent Mark up to Iowa to do a, mother-in-law survey with his in-laws up there, and I'm pretty sure our poll would have been more accurate.
Oh, yeah, Trump 100%.
Yeah, exactly right.
Where they're from.
I mean, geez. It wouldn't take you all that long to figure out Iowa was not going to cut for Kamala Harris, okay?
I mean, just driving through, I see all the signs every time I drive up there.
I know. But, if you're Rachel Maddow and you have not been within 1,500 miles of Iowa in your entire life, then you believe what you want to believe.
They just go to Drake and maybe the University of Iowa.
Yes.
Maybe Iowa State. They just go to the college campuses.
Yes. Drake and, Iowa City and Ames and places like that. And, yes, you'll get pockets of blue. But, man, that prediction came 1 year ago tonight. And look at what's happened over the last nearly 12 months now, almost to the day. My goodness, what a difference we have seen. And that's what's led us to the world we're in right now. Day 34 of this government shutdown, right? It's all a reaction to what happened 1 year ago, where there was giddiness over the idea of Kamala Harris making history, put up my air quotes, and not only did she not make history, she got smoked. Every swing state, popular vote, and for people like Rachel Maddow, who were sitting there a couple of days before the election and actually thought that Kamala Harris would, win Iowa, and to read polls that were wrong by 16 points, they're still struggling to handle it. That's why we sit here and have to deal with this government shutdown right now. That's why. Because for all the infighting there is on the right side of the political aisle, there is a reckoning going on the left side as well. They don't know which way they want to go. Do they want to go full-blown progressivism and socialism, borderline communism in a place like New York City with this guy Mamdani? Do they want to moderate? And do they want to draw themselves back to the middle, especially on some of these key crazy social issues? Do they want to do that or not? They really haven't decided their best way forward. And that's why, in part, I think the shutdown is still going on. The only common sense guy you're hearing from out there is John Fetterman, of all people, in Pennsylvania, who's like, we're shutting down the government on the Democrat side. We've got to reopen the government. He's one of the only guys saying that. And I give him credit for doing it. But there's a reason no one else is doing it, because they're beholden to the left flank of the party right now, which is a darn shame, because now you got people getting hurt. Food stamps, air traffic controllers not getting paid, and everything else. So what's the play? Well, the president doubled down on something last night, and he also spoke to 60 Minutes about it. We'll get to it all next. Well, the president doubled down on it last night. Wide-ranging 70-minute interview on 60 Minutes. Now you're like, wait, how is there a 70-minute interview on a show called 60 Minutes? Well, it was not edited to be 70 minutes. I just tried watching the unedited 70-minute version as much as I could last night to take my mind off of the Chiefs' loss to the Bills last night. So I did what I could. And the president is insistent that he is now ready to end the filibuster to reopen the government. We are sitting here this morning on day 34. You have food stamps that are not being now given out to 42 million Americans who rely on it. I should probably rephrase that, because I don't believe 42 million Americans actually rely on it. I think 42 million Americans receive it. And whether or not 42 million rely on it is something I would say is very much up for debate. But either way, 42 million people not getting food stamps. We have many government workers who are not getting paid. The airports are getting messier by the day. And the president is basically saying enough's enough. Let's end the filibuster. And I'm not there yet.
Said today they're not
I know
going to
John
do that.
doesn't. Well, John and a few other. But you know what? The Republicans have to get tougher. If we end the filibuster, we can do exactly what we want. We're not going to lose power. The theory is, then we'll do it. But then when they get into power someday, they'll do it. That's true. But you know what?
So you think John
We're here right now. No, I like John Thune. I think he's terrific. But I disagree with him on this point.
He said today he wasn't going to do it.
Well, that's too bad.
So.
Okay, so that was the president talking about Senate Majority Leader John Thune. So I get why the president's frustrated. If you're looking at this in the short term, if you're looking at it through the here and now, and if you're President Trump, I understand why you might do that. You may come to the conclusion of, you know what, screw it. We tried to work with these guys. They're not giving us anything. We just want to do what they've done, what both sides of the aisle have done, a clean continuing resolution, same spending levels. Let's do it. I can't get there. Because when the president says we're not going to lose power, no, Republicans will be out of power one day. I promise you. It's how the country's operated for 250 years. You will lose power. Like it or not, it's going to happen. Hopefully not soon, but it's going to happen. And then you want to talk about being able to use the king line against this guy? Oh, my goodness. Here comes the king. The king has decided he is going to do king things and end the filibuster. The only way their dopey No Kings protest actually has some legs is if they go ahead and blow up the filibuster. Outside of that, they just look like a bunch of fools with a bunch of Subaru driving, washed up, crackly old hippies standing on street corners. That's what they've got. So I'm not there yet. I can be convinced to get there at some point, but I'm not there today on day 34. I can't do it. I can't, because trust me, there will be a day when they say, you know what, screw it. All right, let's blow the whole thing up. Let's end the filibuster, and we're going to do it because of the time Republicans did it back in 2025. And I am not interested at all in setting that precedent, because what am I going to say then? If Democrats end the filibuster and whenever they have power next, am I really going to be able to sit here and critique it and criticize them for it? That would be awfully hypocritical of me, wouldn't it? And I would imagine for many of you. And you could do the whole, yeah, but this is different because we're just trying to get a continuing resolution through. And, you know, this is not what they would do it for. They would do it for crazy legislation like making Puerto Rico and D.C. a state. And we're just talking about trying to reopen the government. If you're explaining in politics, you are losing. That's what you're doing. So I still am not there. I wouldn't go down this road. Wouldn't do it just yet, even though I understand his frustration. Bill is on KCMO, 913-408-7957. What's up, Bill?
Well, I agree with you on what you just said. The other thing is that I'd heard that it was possible that in the big, beautiful bill, which I have not read.
I don't think anyone who voted for it read it either, but anyway, go ahead.
Or in the executive order that President Trump signed, that the filibuster will end after these elections this week, because it's possible for illegals to vote in this election, but after the election, then and the government goes back to work, then all these things go into effect, and then illegals won't be able to vote. Is that possible?
I don't know how it could be. You're suggesting that illegals could vote in tomorrow's elections because the government shut down, and then once it reopens, they can vote?
It has to do with Trump's executive order and things like that. I don't know.
Listen, if that was true, and Trump was not screaming it from the rooftops, then what is he doing? I can't imagine that's true, because, and I'm not knocking you, Bill, it's just the first I'm hearing of it. And if that was true, and they were not talking about that every chance they could get, then shame on them. So that's the only reason I'm suggesting I don't know if that's accurate, because if it was accurate, I would like to think that, every Republican leader in Congress would be screaming that, and they're not.
Can I bring up one more thing?
Yeah, real quick.
On the beef issue, everybody was screaming
No. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to give you 30 seconds on the beef. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm a cattleman. So anyway, but the Argentinian thing doesn't hurt us at all. The other thing is that the bean deal with China and putting them back into the market will raise the cost of feed to feed the cattle and cause the packers not to buy or pay up as high on cattle. So cattlemen end up losing more by the China deal than they ever got hurt by Argentina. If that makes sense.
Yeah, okay, so the Argentina thing makes sense. I've heard that from folks in the industry like yourself. I know the politicians have to say, we don't want Argentinian beef. We don't want to hurt the cattle ranchers. I've heard it's such a small amount of beef, it's not going to hurt guys and gals in the States. So you're confirming what I've heard. Explain to me, because I am intrigued by what you're saying here. Explain to me the soybean thing that you were just talking about.
Okay, well, when China comes back into the market, that's going to raise the price of beans. And that's what, the president was hoping for, because farmers are screaming because beans are cheap. So they have to use the bean meal to feed the cattle. So the beans are going to go up. The packers have to pay more for the feed that the feeders are. And so they're going to pay less for the cattle in the marketplace, in the sale barns and things like that. And so it's going to cause the farmers more grief, because the ones who raise calves, the calf prices will go down when grain goes up.
Gotcha. Okay. I see what you're saying there. So actually bringing China back into the marketplace increases the cost of beans, which we knew, though, which is good for the bean farmer, though.
Sure.
Which is what it's really about.
It's way more painful for the cattlemen, and nobody's saying anything about it.
Yeah, I see. I got you. Good call there, Bill. That's good stuff. I appreciate you. No, that's a very good point. But that's where, when the government is artificially picking winners and losers, I mean, think about how this started, right? How this started was the government incentivized farmers going back to late in Trump's first term, early in Biden's second term, to grow soybeans in particular. Soybeans hit a record high in 2022. They've been down about 30-40% since then, give or take, to where they are today. So the soybean farmers are now screaming, saying, hey, we're getting killed here over the last couple of years. Well, the government incentivized farmers to go down the soybean route. Now they've got an oversupply and not enough demand. So what do? They try to increase demand by getting China back into the mix to buy American soybeans. But that then, as Bill notes, will hurt the American rancher. So, I mean, it's just like, this is why you don't want the government involved in a lot of this stuff. You don't want them really incentivizing anything, because all they do is end up artificially picking and creating winners and losers. Good call there, Bill. Appreciate that. Catesman Uncanceled, 10 a.m., right here on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. Great to have you on a Monday morning. So, over the weekend, CNN did a pretty darn good job explaining what is going on with the national landscape. Now, you've got these elections tomorrow. We have them here on both sides of our state line, but there's much more action when it comes to city council races and mayoral races on the Kansas side. But they're all nonpartisan, air quotes. Now, they're all partisan. It's just they mask them as nonpartisan, which means you have to do more work to figure out who to vote for, and that's why voter turnout is ultimately so low. That's not the case in the New York City mayor's race, the New Jersey governor's race, the Virginia governor's race, and places like that. So going into the big election week, this came from CNN over the weekend. Harry Enton explained where the brand is right now for the Democrat Party, and here's what he had to say.
Democrats at this point are historically divided. It is a complete and utter mess. It is messier than a hoarder's basement. What are we talking about here? The national early poll leader, 25% plus. Normally, that's where Democrats are. Biden was at 25% plus in 2020. Hillary Clinton was in 08 and 16. Gore was in 00 and 04. At this particular point, there is no one in the Democratic race for president who's polling at 25% plus. The water is quite warm. If you're a Democrat potentially thinking about running in 2028, jump right in, because at this point, there is no front runner.
What do you think, is that because how people view the Democratic Party right now, is that contributing to this?
Yeah, I think that is in large part of what's going on, is one of the reasons why there is no front runner. Nobody wants to put anybody up at the top of their ballot list, is because at this particular point, the Democratic brand is in the basement. It is total and complete garbage in the mind of the American public. The Democratic Party's net favorable rating, record lows in all three. Wall Street Journal, 30 points underwater. CNN, 26 points underwater. Gallup, 26 points underwater. And that is being driven in large part by discontent within the Democratic base. The Democratic base wants something different. We'll ultimately end up seeing who they choose. It'll be quite the thing who ultimately gets the rose.
Yes, sir.
Who ultimately gets the rose. What is this, The Bachelor from Harry Enton? So before you sit there and do cartwheels and say, well, this is the greatest news ever. Democrat brands in the toilet. Their own party doesn't like itself. Well, part of that is what is driving the shutdown here right now. Because what I believe leadership is trying to prove is that they can stand up to Trump. The brand is partially in the toilet because there are those voters in the party who actually don't believe that they're doing enough to, in their eyes, stop Donald Trump. So this is not necessarily just an automatic net win for the Republicans. When you hear that piece from Harry Enton, there is certainly good news if you're a Republican voter and you want to see the Democrats continue to lose, but you also have to be able to read between the lines here on what's partially going on. And there was another just brief poll over the weekend I saw from CBS. And once again, you take all of these with a grain of salt, all right? But I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly on this. There was a new poll from CBS that had Trump 18 points underwater. They had him 40 points underwater with independents. The poll asks, are Trump's policies making you financially better off, worse off, or the same? 18% said better off, 51% said worse off, 31% said the same. The biggest issues, cost of living, the economy, and tariffs. Those are his big red flags right now. The good news for the president is that his party is still leading Democrats head-to-head on the economy and on immigration. So he still has that going for him when paired up against his political opponents. That's a great thing for Trump. Because in politics, you only have to be better than the person you're running against. You don't have to be perfect. But there are warning signs in here as well. Cost of living is still a problem. Inflation is still sticky. Grocery prices have been one of the larger drivers of inflation year over year, up 4 to 5, 6% in some places around the country. So that's going to be it. Whether it's tomorrow, I don't think it's going to have a big impact on these local elections in Johnson County because people don't even really know what they're voting for or who they're voting for. Sad to say, that's just my analysis of it. Every time I do one of these, I'm like, I hope the voter turnout's up, and it never is. So I'm not going to try to trick anybody into thinking otherwise. But I think Democrats will have a big day. They've got their machine operating in Johnson County, sad to say. And you combine that with, of course, just the national lay of the land, and I believe they'll be very motivated. But in some of these other races, the Republicans might be able to squeeze out a close win in a place like New Jersey in their governor's race, but that's it. That's the only one I maybe see going the way of the Republican Party.